Here are 4 things I wish I knew before visiting Turkey. I spent 10 days traveling Turkey with my mom this summer, visiting the bustling city of Istanbul that spans 2 continents, exploring the historical sites of Cappadocia and floating above the fairy chimneys in a hot air balloon, and relaxing in the chic coastal city of Bodrum. But truthfully, the country was completely different than I anticipated before going, so here's everything I wish I knew before visiting. First, it's quite expensive due to immense inflation in recent years. In only 3 full days in Istanbul, we spent $1,836 for 2 people, or $918 per person. But there's still ways to save money if you know where to look. Don't shop at the Grand Bazaar because everything there is twice as expensive as you'll find in shops around the city. Book your tours in advance because your hotel will upcharge you to book them for you. And try to look for alternative options to popular tourist spots, like this hotel rooftop that's free to access and has the same view as Galata Tower, which costs 40 euros per person to visit. Second, it's much less conservative than I expected. Since Turkey is a majority Muslim country and you have to cover your hair, shoulders, and knees to visit the mosque, I figured locals would dress conservatively throughout the city as well. But instead, I found people wearing the same clothes you'd expect anywhere else in Europe in the summertime. Short dresses, shorts, crop tops, etc. Just be sure to bring a scarf to cover up before visiting the Blue Mosque or Hagia Sophia. Third, it's incredibly safe. I visited Turkey this summer only a week after the US conducted strikes on Iran, which created heightened security risks in the region for Americans, and frankly made me nervous to travel there. But I found everywhere we visited to be super safe. Locals were extremely friendly, we were perfectly fine on public transportation, etc. However, note that I visited the 3 most touristy places in the country, so I can't speak for other destinations. And fourth, Turkey is much more modern than I expected, not just in the way people dress like I mentioned before, but in the architecture of the cities I visited. Since Turkey is one of the oldest countries in the world with such a rich and complex history, I figured that the history would be more prevalent. In reality, you see it in pockets throughout the city. Like the Sultanate in Istanbul has Hagia Sophia from the 500s AD and the Blue Mosque from the 1600s. But the rest of the city is much more comparable to some Eastern European cities I visited. Similarly, Bodrum is extremely expensive and lavish, similar to Saint-Tropez or Mykonos. Those are the 4 things that surprised me about visiting Turkey that I wish I knew before I visited. Did any of these surprise you? Let me know.